Hi, welcome back to Dear Aunt Susan Advice on Being Human. I'm your host, Susan Patang, and today we're going to talk about two things your shrink doesn't tell you about. Before we begin, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm a certified life coach who will teach you the life skills that your parents didn't. And those are the skills that involve dealing with stress, frustration, irritability, drama, and BS. Here's the commercial. You've been waiting for it. Go to www.thequietzonecoaching.com to learn more. Let's get started. So, have you ever been in therapy? Before I developed the Quiet Zone method, and don't worry, there's not going to be another commercial for a little while, I was in and out of therapy for years. Don't get me wrong, there were many things that I did learn from therapy. But therapy tends to be backward facing. You're looking at things that happened in the past that made you the way that you are now. The way that you view life, the things that you experience are all colored by things that happened in your past. And even when we come from dysfunctional families, we might not always understand that some of the things that we experienced as kids were dysfunctional. When you're a kid, you don't know any different. That's what your experience of life is. And you think that that's normal, the dysfunction. We think when we're kids that that's the way every family behaves. So therapy can be really great for identifying some of that dysfunctional stuff. But one of the problems that I always had with therapy was that I never learned what to do. When I got into a situation where I hadn't learned what to do, I would fall back to old behaviors. So you can understand why you're behaving the way you are and how you figured out to behave that way from the dysfunction. But your therapist doesn't always give you the skills that you need to not behave that way anymore. So once I got my anxiety and depression under control, I wasn't prepared to face the outside world. I didn't have those tools. I didn't know what to do or how to act. And that's what life coaches do. They give you the tools that you need to interact with the rest of the world. I help my customers set up systems so that they can feel confident in their beliefs and their actions and their relationships. And there's your commercial, www.thequietzonecoaching.com. Just saying. Okay, so here are two things that your therapist or your shrink isn't going to tell you about. They're not going to help you with, and I'm going to help you with them right here on this podcast. So the first one is to reframe the way you view yourself and the rest of the world. What do you really believe about yourself? Do you think that you're a failure? Do you feel like you'll never amount to anything, that you're a bad person, or that you're not good enough to have what you want, that nothing you do comes out right? And we all have those thoughts from time to time, but be brutally honest. A good way to determine what your core beliefs are about yourself is to listen to your self-talk. What do you say to yourself? Do you say things like, "Oh, that was stupid, you dummy"? Okay, that's an indicator, all right, that your core belief about yourself is not healthy. What I want you to do is write those down. Write them down. Be brutally honest, okay? Listen to your self-talk. And also write down what you believe about life in general. Okay. So do you think that the universe is out to get you? Do you feel that life is hard? Do you think that most people are evil or are stupid? Be aware of that negative self talk and those negative core beliefs. And what you can do is, after you've written them all down, read over them and one at a time, challenge them. Challenge them with logic. Okay. So start practicing some self talk that sounds the way that you would talk to somebody that you care about. So, no, I'm not stupid because look at these smart things that I did. No, the universe is not out to get me because look at these things that happened. And you're basing that on real experience. Okay. And that's the way to overcome those negative core beliefs. The next thing that your shrink doesn't tell you is that being mindful, positive, and grateful are actually logical things to do to enhance your experience of life. They're not woo woo stuff. Okay. So if you want to experience joy and happiness in your life, you have to invite it in. Happiness and joy are not goals to be attained, they are the byproducts of being mindful, positive, and grateful. So let's start with mindfulness. Mindfulness, the past is gone and the future isn't here yet. The only thing that is real is right now. How much time do you spend regretting the past or worrying about the future or just being concerned with the next thing that you have to do? It's not logical. What is logical is to stay in this moment right now because that's the only thing that's real, isn't it? Is right now. We are always in right now 100% of the time. Makes sense, doesn't it? That's what's logical. Positivity. So tell me, what feels better? Finding positives in different situations or being grumpy and negative all the time? What feels better? Of course, it feels better to be positive. Why would you spend any time being negative and grouchy and grumpy if you can be positive about things? If we're focusing on each individual moment by being mindful, doesn't it make logical sense to enhance each moment and to find the positives in it and to make it feel better? Doesn't that make sense? Okay. So the other thing is too is that being positive does not mean that you aren't preparing for the worst or preparing for things, and you're not being fully reasonable about what might happen. Okay. You can't prepare for the worst unless you have an idea of what the best is, and you're trying to make that a goal and work towards having the best in any given situation. That's what's logical. So, yes, prepare for the worst, but keep in mind what the best is and make that your goal and find the positives in every situation. Move towards achieving it. Okay. Gratitude. How much do you take for granted in life? Look around you. Okay. What miracles of nature do you see? The grass, the animals, bugs, trees, the ocean, and anything that's out there, the clouds, weather, mountains, all of those things are miracles. And we wouldn't be able to exist if it wasn't for those things. Ah, so there's your finding the positive. Don't complain about the weather because if it wasn't for the weather, we wouldn't be able to exist as human beings. It just makes sense. It's logical to appreciate and be grateful for the things that keep us alive and enable us to be alive, right? Now, think about the miracles of human ingenuity. Okay, your cell phone, your computer, you're watching me, either listening to me on the internet through a podcast or you're watching me on YouTube. That's a miracle. That's a miracle of technology. Okay. What would life be like if you didn't have that? All right. You might not, if you're not living near me to hear me speak somewhere, you might not ever know what I have to say or what anybody has to say. Be amazed at the things that make your life easier. If you didn't have those things, what would your life be like? Okay. Just the very basics of what we consider basics of human life. Having a bathroom in the house. Okay, it wasn't that long ago where you had to go outside to the outhouse, right? Think about all that wonderful stuff that we don't appreciate, we take for granted. So think about this now. If we didn't appreciate what's around us, what kind of person would we become? We would become entitled, selfish, unconcerned about creating positive change, about making things better. Ah, somebody else will do it. You know, I don't really care. We don't care. There you go. We don't care if we don't appreciate what we have and find gratitude for what's around us. Okay. What would our society look like if everybody felt that way? Not too nice, right? And hint, hint, big hint here, we are well on our way to that, aren't we? So, doesn't it make logical sense to appreciate what we have, and the nature around us that enables us to be alive makes sense, right? So I want you now to reframe the way that you view yourself and the way you view the world, and to find positivity and gratitude for everything in daily life and be mindful and paying attention to it in the first place. Good for you. You're well on your way to finding the byproduct of happiness and joy, because those things are the byproducts of being mindful, grateful, and positive. Did you enjoy what you learned today? There is so much more to life than the work home grind. There is so much more that I can teach you about the life skills that we never learned from our dysfunctional families. And I know they work because this is how I survived anxiety and depression when medication and therapy just didn't do the job. So, if you would like to learn more, if you would like to have an essential life skills assessment, this is a free session that I give to potential clients. You can go to www.thequietzonecoaching.com and discover how you can start waking up happy in the morning. I'll see you next time. I hope you have a wonderful, awesome, amazing week.